I grew up watching The Lion Traveling Circus. It's a YouTube series about a bunch of like ridiculous, crazy skiers kind of just living in a van and traveling and going and skiing all these ridiculous places and doing like silly things. And so that was actually the biggest inspiration for me to live in a van because I just like grew up watching that and I was like, this is crazy. You can do that. We graduated college in May 2019 and my lease ended at the end of May and I moved into my car and I spent about 2 to 3 months in my car and I was just working two jobs, one in a restaurant, the other one in a gym, just to save money and just to not be tied down with a lease. And I'd actually bought my van in January 2019. So I'd already bought it before I graduated, but I needed a lot more money to like be able to build it out and to like kind of live that lifestyle and like figure out how to work online for myself and a couple other things. So I knew that if I just lived in a car and worked in a restaurant and a gym, I was like, I could work a lot of hours and it was just going to be for a couple months. And then I read the 4 Hour Work Week, probably a year or two before I graduated. And I wanted to just work for myself on the internet and do like the whole 4 Hour Work Week. Fortunately, I was able to do that for quite some time. And so when I was done being in Tahoe, living in my car, I'd saved up just enough. And I'd also got my first client for freelancing. So I was a freelance copywriter. And copywriting is sales in the written forms. That's a lot of SEO and email marketing. And of course, for this first client, I was kind of just like a hodgepodge of I was like more like half writing, half an assistant to the CEO. So it's kind of like, and it was 100% remote, and that was the first time I've ever been remote. So I was just excited to do that. But wasn't quite like the sexiest job, let's say. And then I was able to go back to Placerville, where my mom and stepdad live, and they have a good enough garage for me to build the van out, which was a really nice asset. And I'm very thankful if they were let me live home and that they also had the resources for me to come do that. And so, yeah, I thought it was going to take me 3 months to build out my van. It took me about 7 months. So I was pretty frustrated because I really just wanted to like go and I was working or I was building the van like a lot, at least 50 hours, if not 80 hours a week. Like it was the only thing I did because I didn't really have friends back home. I mean, I had my parents, which is awesome, but I didn't really have like much of a social life. So I was pretty much just grinding. And there's a lot of like setbacks and hard things because I'd never really built many things with my hands. So I was just attending the prestigious university of YouTube. And that's how I learned how to build my van. And then also shout out to my brother. He's an electrical engineer. So he builds surgical robots for a living. So being able to ask him for any sort of like solar and wiring questions, he basically designed my battery and solar system and then I assembled it. So that was another great resource to have. And then, yeah, and like for me, I really cared about skiing and I wanted to do that more than I wanted to do anything else in this world. So that was the reason I lived in a van is so I could go to all these places all throughout North America and go skiing wherever I wanted, whenever I wanted. And I was just working from the laptop. And at first I was probably working like 20-ish hours a week. And then once I got better at writing copy and had a better client base, I was working like literally 5 to 10 hours a week and just traveling, just living off of not much. At first, it was about $800 a month for like literally everything, like diesel and car insurance and phone bill and business expenses, which were pretty small, but like website hosting, a couple other things. And then towards the end, it was closer to like $1,200 or $1,300 a month because it was like I might as well buy some nice to have things and a few other things like that. So it was really affordable because that's like literally every cent I was spending. And I was just able to like for 4 years, literally it was 1,364 days I traveled daily. Like every single day I would just wake up and be like, all right, I have like 5 hours of work to do this week. So what do I want to do? I want to go skiing. Do I want to go running? Do I want to hang out with friends? Do I want to go biking, go explore somewhere new? Do I want to drive a state over? And I'd never spent more than 1 month per state at a time. So there's plenty of states like the West Coast, Utah, and some other ones that I would come back to consistently. But I never was in a state more than a month. And usually it was like a week or two in like a town. Then I'd go to the next one and maybe come back or go on further. And for me, that was like ultimate freedom. Like I was living a very frugal lifestyle, and I still am, but like I wasn't really worried about money. I had like anything I wanted to do in any location I could go do. And during COVID, I was able to do that still during COVID. So at first it was like kind of weird because a lot of people weren't trying to hang out and like traveling was like you're not really supposed to do that. So I did like post up. I was in Washington for the first little bit, and I was in California for the second little bit, but I'd still kind of bounce around a little bit. But I was more cognizant of like not going and seeing all my friends and hanging out with them outside and not really going inside and things like that. But that shaped up pretty quickly, or we got back to normal pretty quickly, and then I just kept going. And I even went to Asia. I just packed a 30 or is a 27-liter backpack. I lived in Asia for 3 months, just going all around Indonesia for 2 months, and then Thailand for a month. And it's dirt cheap out there, dirt cheap. I was spending 800 to 900 bucks a month, and I had like traveler's insurance, which is also medical insurance. And I was renting mopeds, and I ate out almost every single meal. And I was sleeping in like a good, nothing crazy, but like good hostels and like, or like little bungalows and things like that. Like I wasn't being frugal, but I wasn't skimping out. Like I wasn't sleeping in the rain outside or anything like that. Like it was pretty nice living. And then I was on 8 different islands in Indonesia, and it's literally like anywhere from $3 to $10 to get a boat ride to a new island that could be a couple hours away. And then you just show up and you just rent a moped and you just start cruising around, and you never really plan anything. Like